Oh, welcome back, Detox family. Listen, this setup is just beginning. See, Chuck Grassley just dropped the Clinton Annex, finally declassified by Pam Bondi, and it's a bombshell. The FBI didn't even touch the thumb drives with Obama's email. That's not oversight. That's intentional blindness. And if you think this is just old news, think again. This is the kind of file that makes careers or ends them.
First, it was Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence's bombshell claims that Obama-era officials reportedly, quote, manufactured and politicized intelligence, end quote, to create the narrative that Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 presidential election. And now, Senator Chuck Grassley has just declassified never-before-seen FBI documents that expose major failures and possibly political motives in the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. This story isn't just about the past. It's about power, politics, and the integrity of American justice. On July 21, 2025, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley dropped a political nuke. In a fiery press release, he revealed,
"This document shows an extreme lack of effort and due diligence in the FBI's investigation of former Secretary Clinton's email usage and mishandling of highly classified information. Under Comey's leadership, the FBI failed to perform fundamental investigative work and left key pieces of evidence on the cutting room floor. The Comey FBI's negligent approach and perhaps intentional lack of effort in the Clinton investigation is a stark contrast to its full-throated investigation of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, which was based on the uncorroborated and now discredited Steele dossier. Comey's decision-making process smacks of political infection.
Clinton, who served as former President Barack Obama's Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013, was investigated by the FBI over claims she improperly stored or transmitted classified materials on a private email server. The FBI advised the Department of Justice in 2016, ahead of that year's massive election that pitted Clinton against future President Donald Trump, that Clinton should not face prosecution over the matter. Then FBI Director James Comey said in a press release, "Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before bringing charges. There are obvious considerations, like the strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent. Responsible decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past." Grassley specifically released declassified materials from the Clinton Annex, which is an appendix to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's 2018 report that reviewed the DOJ and FBI's handling of the Clinton investigation. Grassley, in the press release, added,
"I warned years ago that the Clinton investigation failed to hit the mark, and I'm grateful the American people can finally see the facts for themselves. After nearly a decade in the shadows, this information is now coming to light thanks to Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel for their dedicated efforts to fulfill my congressional request. I appreciate their ongoing commitment to transparency and strongly urge them to continue to fully review this matter, including its national security impact."
The documents claim that then FBI Director Comey, as well as other FBI leaders, obtained thumb drives related to their investigation into Clinton, but that the agency failed, quote, to perform additional targeted searches of the drives, according to Grassley's office. Even more shocking, Grassley's release suggests that the Obama administration may have taken active steps to, quote, scuttle the Clinton investigation. Intelligence reports allegedly show efforts to protect her candidacy during the 2016 election. The declassified materials reportedly stem from the Clinton Annex, part of the DOJ's Office of Inspector General 2018 report, and were made public at Grassley's request thanks to Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. This comes just days after Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard accused Obama-era officials of manufacturing and politicizing intelligence, end quote, to frame Donald Trump with Russian election interference in 2016. The connection? Both Gabbard and Grassley are pointing to systemic efforts to shield certain political actors while aggressively targeting others, raising serious concerns about the weaponization of U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies.
Hillary said she never sent classified emails, but the FBI found 110 classified messages across 52 chains. That's not a slip, that's a system. She played the "nothing was marked classified" card. But the truth? The markings were there. The intent was clear.
The FBI under former President Barack Obama failed to fully examine several thumb drives containing hacked State Department data, according to a newly declassified watchdog report. This includes messages linked to Obama during the State Department's 2016 investigation of Hillary Clinton and her use of a private email server. Senator Chuck Grassley, the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman, told the Washington Examiner, "This document shows an extreme lack of effort and due diligence in the FBI's investigation of former Secretary Clinton's email usage and mishandling of highly classified information." The thumb drives, supplied by a confidential source, were deemed too sensitive to be reviewed fully at the time due to concerns about the privileged victim data they could contain. But a draft memo from within the FBI recommended analyzing the material to assess the national security risks tied to Clinton's private server, a step the Bureau ultimately declined to take. The new details are in a declassified appendix to a 2018 report by former Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz. The report shows that the FBI Cyber Division had tried to obtain access to the thumb drives in 2016, but internal objections over privilege concerns blocked the effort. The appendix also highlighted foreign intelligence the FBI encountered, including Russian documents that alleged political interference by former FBI Director James Comey and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. The revelation also comes as the FBI investigates Comey and ex-CIA Director John Brennan over their roles in the Trump-Russia investigation and possible intelligence mishandling.
I know some of y'all still remember the Benghazi probe. Well, the Benghazi probe is what uncovered her private server. Then boom, the investigation was snatched and rebranded. That's how you control the narrative. We were chasing answers on Benghazi. Instead, we found a digital vault of secrets, and they shut that down fast.
People in government, like places like the FBI and senior leadership positions in DOJ, making prosecutorial decisions based on a political election. You know, my first big instance of that was Benghazi. I was the main justice lead prosecutor for Benghazi for a while.
No kidding.
And I remember this meeting with then AG Holder, and we had a deck of like 19 guys we wanted to prosecute. JSOC had them rolled up, and we wanted to get them all. They killed 4 Americans, you know? It's a legit terrorist attack. And the basic general response from the FBI and DOJ leadership was, well, it's only politically convenient to get one guy. And they went and got basically the wrong guy. And then we prosecuted that wrong guy. Not that he wasn't a part of it. He just wasn't like the top tier of guys I would have gone after. And they screwed up the prosecution because they didn't listen to us and they didn't want to use the right evidence. And it was all political decisions.
What do you mean they didn't want to use the right evidence?
They wanted to, because half of that stuff was classified, and they wanted to. I didn't piece this together then because we didn't have the whole fallout from Benghazi, the hearings, and the congressional review. That would take time to come in. But they wouldn't let us prosecute, I think, 16 of the 19 that I wanted. They didn't want half this evidence declassified. And I was like,
who
why
is they?
Well, the leadership at DOJ, FBI, and the intel community obviously played a role in that. And so, we were just like, all right, we'll do the best we can. And for example, Katala, Greenbrier River, the guy that first got prosecuted, he is getting out for his participation in Benghazi, where he killed 4 Americans. He'll be out of prison before the next presidential election's done.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why would we? Why?
I mean, I don't mean to laugh at it because it's so atrocious because they charge him with the wrong crimes. Nobody at the FBI or DOJ wanted to listen to how to turn intel into evidence, into a public display in a court of law. Everybody working on the case thought they were the best at everything. And the decision from the top down is we're only doing this guy. And if you get the prosecution wrong, which
What the fuck are we doing, man?
I don't know, bro.
What are we doing? Why are we even in? What the fuck are we doing?
It was my first kind of foray into it in terms of the two-tier system of justice, and it wasn't happening outside, right? My first experience with that was public defender land. Now it's internal. Now it's the administrative application at the executive branch level.
And let's not forget that bleach bit and phone smash tactic. She didn't just delete emails, she nuked them. Bleach bit smashed phones, wiped servers. That's not cleaning up, that's erasing history. 33,000 emails gone after a subpoena. That's not like with a cloth, as she put it. That's obstruction with flair. And she knew exactly what she was doing and how to set up a narrative.
The Justice Department has received Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's criminal referral, outlining claims that the Obama administration manufactured and politicized intelligence to create the 2016 Russia election interference narrative. Doug Luzader joins us now with all the details. Hey, Doug.
Ainsley, good morning. The Director of National Intelligence says the evidence of that was overwhelming, and she has now passed that information over to the Justice Department as a criminal referral. It's not clear yet where it will go from there. And we haven't heard much about Hillary Clinton's emails in a bit, but here we go. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley just released declassified documents showing, he says, that the FBI failed to fully investigate evidence, including thumb drives, as part of that investigation. Here is what Grassley says. The Comey FBI's negligent approach and perhaps intentional lack of effort in the Clinton investigation is a stark contrast to its full-throated investigation of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, which was based on the uncorroborated and now discredited Steele dossier. Now, then FBI Director James Comey, at the time, defended that investigation.
What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
And the White House press secretary was asked about the new Clinton email revelations yesterday.
It comes as no surprise, unfortunately, and I think that's why you've seen the FBI open up investigations into the individual you mentioned and some others as well.
Now, at the time, if you recall, Comey concluded that Clinton may have mishandled classified material, but that no reasonable prosecutor, he said, would bring a case.
And Tulsi Gabbard, she ain't pulling punches. She's calling out Obama for manufacturing the Russian hoax, criminal referrals, treason talk. All of it's on the table. This isn't just political theater. It's a full-blown accusation backed by declassified docs.
So brand new revelations into the alleged Russia hoax, a trove of declassified documents revealing evidence that the Obama administration manufactured and politicized intelligence during Trump's 2016 election.
The documents released by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, described secret meetings after Trump's victory where Obama officials directed the intel community to leak reports that Vladimir Putin was personally involved in the U.S. election hack. This after the intelligence community repeatedly determined that Russia was not trying to influence the election by cyber means.
Here with more is DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, thanks for joining us. And some of those individuals were literally the leaders of the intelligence community under President Obama. How significant is these documents that you've released?
Thank you so much. And thanks for focusing on this issue that these documents have really brought to the forefront, because it's one that doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, There was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome of the United States election that President Trump won in November of 2016. This document was then used as the foundation for everything that came next. It was essentially a years-long coup that was launched against President Trump before he even had the opportunity to take his oath of office and be sworn in as President of the United States. So, as you know, there was a Mueller investigation that went on for years, cost taxpayers nearly $40 million. There were 2 congressional impeachments. President Trump and almost every member of his family were smeared and attacked, faced lawsuits, depositions, high-level officials were investigated, some were arrested and put in jail. The list goes on and on about the ramifications of this, but foundational to it all was the fact that we had in President Obama and his leadership team people who did not want to accept the will of the American people in electing Donald Trump in 2016, and therefore cooked up this treasonous conspiracy to, again, try to effectively, and they did effectively, launch a years-long coup against the sitting president of the United States.
Director Gabbard, I'm glad you used the word coup. I also, in some of your reports, the word treason has come up. We're seeing a lot of things coming to light these days, and it's very encouraging for Americans, especially this report, which so many of us knew this was a hoax. But this goes all the way to the top. I mean, this goes all the way to Barack Obama. Will we actually see someone as high up as Barack Obama take responsibility, be accountable, maybe face criminal charges? Is that a possibility here based on the documents that you've released?
Rachel, the seriousness of, again, the implications and the consequences of these actions that were taken demand accountability. The American people not only deserve the truth and accountability, when we look at the future of our country as a democratic republic and the American people's ability to have faith that when they go and cast a vote at the ballot box, that the will of the people will be respected by those in government, whether they be Democrats or Republicans, this is literally what is at stake here. So we are referring all of our documents to the Department of Justice for the purpose of accountability and action. No one, no matter who they are, no matter how high up they are or how powerful they may be, no matter who the intelligence officials or professionals were who were a part of this treasonous conspiracy, there must be accountability. The truth must be shown to the American people in order to ensure that there is this faith and trust and integrity in our democratic republic for the sake of the future of our country.
So as voters, can we feel confident that we will actually see charges, do you think, out of this?
I'm not a lawyer. We're referring all of this to the Department of Justice. I know that Attorney General Pam Bondi is committed to bringing about justice to those who have broken the law. And in this case, again, what these documents detail, to me, in my view, cannot be explained as anything but a treasonous conspiracy. This is not so different from what we saw under George W. Bush, when we saw that manufactured intelligence claiming there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that kicked off a war that changed our country, that changed the lives of so many people like myself who went and served in those wars. The implications of manufactured intelligence are real. I would even say that what we are seeing here has an even greater impact than what we've seen in the past, because it speaks, again, to the foundation of our Constitution and our democratic republic, which is why accountability is so critical.
Amen to that. And by the way, we cannot weaponize our intelligence community against our enemies, our political enemies. That is wrong, and there are huge consequences. Tulsi, thank you for declassifying this. This is amazing information. Some of us never thought it would come out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tulsi.
Thank you.
All right.
That's a patriot right there.
Now, what happens when 4 corruption cases just bump heads? where Chuck Grassley's not just chasing one scandal, he's tracking four. Clinton servers, Obama emails, Department of Justice interference, and the Russian fabrication. It's like Watergate, but with thumb drives and encrypted texts.
We have the nominations of Brett Shumates to serve as Assistant Attorney General, Civil Division, and John Eisenbergs to serve Assistant Attorney General for National Security. I'm pleased to support both and think that they'll be excellent in their role in the Department of Justice. This morning, I want to highlight several FBI emails that I'm making public this very day. These emails show Biden FBI agents planning and celebrating the indictment of Trump advisor Peter Navarro in 2022. Upon receiving news of Navarro's impending indictment, former anti-Trump FBI official Timothy Tebow replied, "Wow, great," end of quote. Yet, when a criminal referral was issued for Nellie Orr, the FBI and DOJ chose not to press charges against her. As many of you know, Orr was a Fusion GPS contractor involved in the fraudulent Crossfire Hurricane investigation against Trump, and Orr's husband was an FBI agent who also worked against Trump. Orr was accused of lying to Congress. In the last several months, I've also released FBI emails about genesis of Arctic Frost. Arctic Frost was the FBI case against Trump that became one of Jack Smith's cases. Through records that I've already made public, the investigation's political origins are now firmly established. Anti-Trump agent Tebow and his merry band of partisans started the case. Many of the FBI agents on Arctic Frost were also involved in the Navarro case, like Special Agent Walter Giardina. My Democratic colleagues have been warning us about quote-unquote weaponization of the FBI and the DC U.S. Attorney's Office under Trump. They've told us repeatedly of the dangers of law enforcement being used against political enemies. Now, believe me, we Republicans know, because Democrats are reading us pages from the Biden playbook. Biden's DOJ, including the FBI and the DC U.S. Attorney's Office, were weaponized, politicized, and used to target and imprison political enemies. We know this thanks to heroic whistleblowers. The Biden DOJ and FBI did this even as, according to the FBI's own statistics, violent crime rose 4.5% in 2022. The DC's U.S. Attorney's Office refused to prosecute 2/3 of the criminals arrested in our nation's capital that very same year. Instead of focusing on the rampant cases of murder and rape perpetrated against everyday Americans, personnel in the FBI's Washington field office and DC's U.S. Attorney's Office obsessed over ways to target President Trump and his allies. And when Arctic Frost was open, Tebow said that, quote, "the case will be prioritized over all others in the branch," end quote. When speaking about investigations, Tebow commented that, quote, "it frankly took too long for us to open this," end quote. Their conduct is disgraceful and un-American. Transparency brings accountability, which is why I'm reiterating my request for Attorney General Bondi and Director Patel to produce all records related to this political rot. We find in some instances people that have been around the Department of Justice for decades are the bureaucrats holding up some of this. So this is why we need to have these top officials, Bondi and Patel, to step in and make sure everything that ought to be public without question is actually made public.
Now the FBI's thumb drive failure. The FBI got hacked thumb drives with Obama's emails, and they said, nah, we're good. They cited privilege concerns, they just walked away. That's not protocol, that's protection, and it stinks, because it's a two-tier justice system.
The FBI under former President Barack Obama failed to fully examine several thumb drives containing hacked State Department data, according to a newly declassified watchdog report. This includes messages linked to Obama during the State Department's 2016 investigation of Hillary Clinton and her use of a private email server. Senator Chuck Grassley, the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman, told the Washington Examiner, "This document shows an extreme lack of effort and due diligence in the FBI's investigation of former Secretary Clinton's email usage and mishandling of highly classified information." The thumb drives, supplied by a confidential source, were deemed too sensitive to be reviewed fully at the time due to concerns about the privileged victim data they could contain. But a draft memo from within the FBI recommended analyzing the material to assess the national security risks tied to Clinton's private server, a step the Bureau ultimately declined to take. The new details are in a declassified appendix to a 2018 report by former Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz. The report shows that the FBI Cyber Division had tried to obtain access to the thumb drives in 2016, but internal objections over privilege concerns blocked the effort. The appendix also highlighted foreign intelligence the FBI encountered, including Russian documents that alleged political interference by former FBI Director James Comey and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. The revelation also comes as the FBI investigates Comey and ex-CIA Director John Brennan over their roles in the Trump-Russia investigation and possible intelligence mishandling.
It's like a two-tier justice system. Trump gets raided for documents he legally held. Clinton and Biden, they get press conferences and protection. This isn't justice, it's hierarchy, and the public sees it.
The second thing is that it's highly alarming that 50% of the electorate or the American people thinks that there's a two-tier justice system. What they do to Trump, they don't do to Hillary. What they do to Trump, they don't do to Biden and Hunter Biden. So it's our own responsibility and the responsibility of the news organizations that you know very well that they pick and choose and say, well, we're not going to cover this so much because it's not so convenient, because the people that are on the fourth floor for the Washington Post or on the sixth floor for the New York Times, they don't like Trump that much. They like Biden more. That's not the way it works in this country. That's Central America. And that's why 50% of the American electorate is not believing that the DOJ is doing an impartial, rigorous, and unbiased job. And that's the problem. It's not Trump or Biden. That's not. The problem is the effect this could have on the institutions of the most respected and the most loved country in the world because of its system, because of its institutions. But if we start corroding that trust, we got a very big problem. Besides Trump, besides Penn, let alone, forget about anybody, human beings, is the effect on the institutions and on the system. That's my concern.
James Comey's FBI gave Clinton a pass and went full throttle on Trump. The Steele dossier, secret meetings, media leaks, all part of the playbook. They weren't investigating, they were orchestrating.
For many shocked by the outcome of the 2016 election, one theory on how it happened seemed to prevail.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle.
Charges of election interference by Russia were explored by Congress, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, and Special Counsel John Durham. But a new report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence assesses key intelligence was manipulated and withheld from the American people by the intelligence community, calling out former FBI Director James Comey, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan, and former President Barack Obama, and a December 9, 2016 National Security Council meeting.
The task that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency.
Gabbard suggesting a cover-up of key information about Russia's intent and capabilities, hacking into election systems and infrastructure. But these just declassified documents detail what was said at the time, that foreign adversaries do not have and will probably not obtain the capabilities to successfully execute widespread and undetected cyber attacks. Cyber attacks, though, very different from influence operations, say critics, who are slamming Gabbard's move as dishonest and dangerous.
Director Tulsi Gabbard says not only will she be releasing more documents in the coming days, but she will also be referring several members of the Obama administration to the Justice Department for possible criminal prosecution.
When you think about it, the real collusion was internal. Obama's team briefed the media, then they leaked false intel, and then buried the truth. The Russia hoax wasn't foreign interference, it was domestic sabotage. And now, the receipts are coming out, one declassified page at a time. And those of you who found value in this video, I want you to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be sure not to miss another upcoming video. Here at Political Detox, we keep it raw and clean, but we get to the heart of the matter, and we always speak truth to power.